Threshold concepts sometimes can be, well, they can be a little frightening. They can take us into places we've never been before, places that are a little different, outside of our comfort zone. This threshold concept, in fact, is precisely about that. Writing is risky. Or another way we might say that is writing takes risks. Or even good writing takes risks, right? Which is precisely what good writers often do. Now the paradox here is that all too often I see students doing just the opposite, because the only risk that they actually see in their writing is their grade. So because that's what they're really concerned about, that's what's scary to them, they try to actually make the writing itself take as much risk out of it as possible. And that's counterintuitive, because really it's risky writing that's interesting writing. It's writing that takes risks that readers want to read. Now, more often than not, the place where I see students trying to take the risk out of their writing is in their thesis or their thesis statement. They try to nail that thesis statement down so well that no one could disagree with them whatsoever. It just is a given. Well, the problem they run into there is that once they've done that, why does your reader need to read any farther, right? Once you've convinced them, once the thesis statement is well, yeah, of course, then why does your reader need to read? Sometimes your reader needs to read because there's a little bit of mystery there. There's a little bit of tension. There's a little bit of excitement that can be created when you take a risk. When you throw out a thesis statement that you don't have nailed down, you throw out a thesis statement that you're afraid some people might disagree with you about, or everyone might disagree with you about. Now, interestingly enough, the reason that kind of thesis makes good writing is because then you, as the writer, you're left with the task of explaining why that thesis statement is actually true, despite the fact that you think that most people will have a problem with it. Now, you may have been taught this particular model, which is one way of looking at it, and I've seen this quite often, a thesis statement that says, most people think or most people believe X, but I'm going to show Y. Now, if you can take what most people believe and in fact explain how most people are wrong, that's risky. But it's also interesting. It also makes the reader, when they get to that point, say, oh, I wonder how in the world they're going to do this. And it forces you to do your best. It forces you to really stretch yourself because you've taken a risk. And when you stretch yourself as a writer, you often come up with some really good writing. And interestingly enough, you become a better writer, right? Those of you who work out, whether you do weights or run or whatever it might be, know that if you just keep doing the same weight over and over and over again and never go on to the next weight, the next level, if you run the same distance at the same speed every day, you never get better. You have to take risks for good writing and to become a good writer.